Okay, this is section 4.4, completing the square. We're going to talk about how you can take a quadratic expression and rewrite it in a form where you can actually use the square root property to solve it. So we're going to do this process called completing the square. And we use this on quadratics, and we're going to take things like x squared plus bx, and we're going to add a number to that to create a perfect square trinomial. How does that work? Well, and we're going to go through the process and then we're going to talk about why it works. So completing the square. To complete the square for the two terms x squared plus bx, where b is a real number, you do the following three steps. You first find half of b. So step one, find half of b. Then you're going to square that result. So you take the b and you chop it in half, and then you square that. So b over 2, when we square it, is going to be b squared over 4, because b over 2 times b, we square the b and square the 2, right? Square the numerator, square the denominator. So you're then going to add that to x squared plus bx. So x squared plus bx plus b over 2 squared, and then that will factor as x plus b over 2 squared. Now notice where we have the b, here, here, and here. Okay? That will work every time. Let's talk about why it works. Okay? And then we're going to do some examples with this. So why does it work? So we're going to take a little picture like this. So we have a rectangle. X squared plus bx is the area. X squared plus bx. So here's the b. Here's the x. All right? So this one, x squared plus bx. We're going to chop it up a little bit, move things around a little bit. So we're going to chop this in half. Right there's half. And we're going to slide half of that over here. So this is x. And this is b over 2 because we've chopped that in half. All right? We chopped it and rotated it a little bit. Chopped it in half and rotated it. Okay? Now what we have is this picture. So we've taken half b over 2x, or bx over 2, half of bx. Okay, that's what each of these are. And we've slid them around a little bit. To make this a complete square, we have to fill in right here, but that's going to be b over 2 times b over 2. That's the visual. Okay, that's why it will work. Well, how does it work? So let's talk about how it works with numbers, because this is where we really want to be able to work with the numbers. So complete the square for each expression. Example 1, complete the square for each expression, then factor the trinomial. So the first one we have is x squared plus 6x. So we're going to take the b value, we're going to cut it in half. So that's 1/2 of 6, which is 3. Right? You could also write it as 1/2 times 6 this way. Same thing, right? Multiplying by half is the same as dividing by 2. Then you're going to square that result. So 3 squared, which is 9. And we're going to add that to our x squared plus 6x. So we're going to add a 9. Okay, so that 9 completes the square. And then we're going to take that trinomial and we're going to write it as a binomial squared. It should always be x plus half of b. So in this case, half of b is positive 3, and we have that. Okay? And that will work. Because x plus 3 times x plus 3, let's look at that multiplication. X plus 3 times x plus 3. Remember what that's going to do. X times x creates the x squared. There's a 3x and another 3x, so we get that twice. There's our 6x, and then 3 times 3 is 9. So there's our x squared plus 6x plus 9. It's the same as x plus 3 squared. Okay, example 1, part B. We have x squared minus 9x. And we're going to complete the square for that expression and then factor it. So what we have, so we first need to find 1/2 of b. Well, let's go up here and look at these steps right there. So we're going to find half of b, but b is -9. I should have written that up here. On this one, b was 3. Or not 3. b was 6. Right? And we did half of 6. Now b is negative 9. So we're going to do half of negative 9. So negative 9 over 2, or 1/2 of negative 9, right? Then we're going to square that. Negative times negative is positive. 9 times 9 is 81, and 2 times 2 is 4. So square the numerator and square the denominator. Negative went away because a negative to a second power is a positive. Negative 9/2 times negative 9/2 is a positive. 9 times 9 is 81. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay? Fraction multiplication. Multiply numerators, multiply denominators. That's how it works. Okay, so now, step 3, we're going to add 81 over 4 to our x squared minus 9x, and that will make this a perfect square binomial. Now, don't panic about the fraction. It's always going to be x and then half of b. Half of b is negative 9/2. And then the square. So we've written the quadratic as a binomial squared. That's the idea. Okay, you're going to get some practice with the monitoring progress. I'm going to ask you to pause the video, work on them. When you come back, check your answers. Okay, let's see how you did. In number 1, b is 10. Take the b, divide it by 2, cut it in half, so you get 5. 5 squared is 25, so you add a 25. Then when you factor it, you have a binomial squared. And that 5 right there is half of my positive 10. So that plus 5 is half of my positive 10. Number 2, b is negative 4. See them right there? It's the coefficient of x. We take the negative 4, cut it in half, we get negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. So we take x squared minus 4x plus 4. It then will factor as x minus 2. Half of that negative 4 is negative 2. X minus 2 squared. Third one, x squared plus 7x plus, how do we get 49 over 4? Let's look at it. b equals 7. Take b and divide it by 2. So we get 7 over 2. 7 over 2 squared is going to be 49 over 4. 7 squared is 49. 2 squared is 4. We have 49 over 4. Then it will factor as x plus half of b, 7 over 2, squared. And that's the first page of our note.